G'day everyone, welcome back to Kim's Nature Journaling Adventures. Today I thought I'd share with you what my nature journaling supplies are, what I take with me when I go out on my nature journaling adventures. I found what works for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it'll work for you, so feel free to adjust, adapt. You don't have to do any of what I do. I just thought I would share so that if there's anything that you might be interested in, you've got that information ready. First up, because I live in Australia, we have to be quite conscious of the weather and of the creatures in the bush as well. So I'll always take my hat and sunglasses to protect against the sun, the glare, and sometimes the rain as well, but in Western Australia that's not usually an issue in the summer months. And I'll pretty much have these on all the time, except when I'm riding my bike and I have my helmet, but I can just clip using the belt on the hat. I just clip that onto my backpack, and that way when I take my helmet off I can still wear it as well. And other things are a good pair of sturdy shoes that are usually up to at least the ankle. This can be just for stability against uneven ground, but also against spider bites, ticks, snakes, and so on. So just these things that we have to be aware of if we're walking in the bush, even when I go to the beach, just for sticks and things. It doesn't hurt to make sure that we're properly protecting our bodies. Next up is my backpack. This bag is by a brand called Ethnotech. Firstly, I'll always have a bottle of water. This one's from my bike, but I also have a larger, more insulated one, so if I am out for the whole day I've got some cold water with me. And this not only keeps me hydrated, but it's also handy for when I'm using my watercolors to have a source of water if I need it. My water bottle's on this side, and on the other side I've got another pocket as well that's elastic, and in there I just keep this travel bag. It's just a fold up travel bag in case I want to carry things or if I do any shopping on the way. Attached to the front of my bag are these two handy travel size packs. One is sunscreen from the uni I used to go to, and one is hand sanitizer. These are refillable and they're quite useful for if I need a top up or if my hands get dirty for whatever reason and I want them to be clean, for example, before I start working on my nature journal page. There's essentially three pockets. So there's the top pocket, which has got this emergency whistle, which luckily I've never had to use. Then I've got the main back pocket, and finally this front pocket. So I'll start with the top and let's have a look what's in there. First up is this head net, which can help against mozzies and against flies when they get really bad. I've not used it recently, but there have been times when I've wanted it and not had it, so very lightweight. This is called the Hero Clip. It essentially lets you hook this onto something like a tree or a table, and then you can clip things onto it like the bag so that it's not sitting on the floor. So for example, if there's ants on the ground or it's wet, you can change the orientation, and I think it's super useful. I've only used it a handful of times though. I think that's because I'm lucky in that I live in a place where I don't really care about my bag sitting on the ground most of the time. This can take up to 27 kilograms of weight, which is great for my backpack. I also carry a lot of camera gear, but I'm not going to show you because that's not what most people would take nature journaling. The only thing is that I would keep like my GoPro and maybe a waterproof case backing for it in this pocket. Moving on to the back pocket now. In there I keep my camera gear and my sketchbooks. So at the moment I've just got my two sketchbooks. So this is the first one. It's by Canson. It's called the 180 Degree Art Book, which it's called that because it lies completely flat no matter where you are at the front and the middle, and I really like that for if you want to go across the page, which I don't often do, but I like it to be flat and I don't have to worry about drawing in the middle, I feel like I've got all the page space I want. So it can take light washes of watercolor and nice big white pages. I feel like I've got a lot of space to explore, to get a lot of information down, and once I've done a page, I usually feel quite accomplished in achieving that. It has this magnetic catch, which is good for keeping the book closed, but I also find it very annoying, and most of the time I just sort of flick it to the back. I know other people have cut it off completely, but I also like to keep it as a bookmark for the page I'm on. And the other sketchbook that I'll take with me, and this one is smaller and lighter, is one that I've handmade. So this is actually my first attempt at making my own sketchbook, and so I used craft paper, which is just the brown tan paper, which is good for drawing. I don't think it really takes water that well, but for my Inktober series, which I will show up above and also link in the description below, I just stuck to using black, white and grey pens, and that really worked. I really appreciate the fact that it's a small format, and so I can get something done more quickly if I don't have a lot of time, or if I'm out in the sun and it's getting hot. So I really love that, but on the occasion I have felt like I wanted a little bit more space on the page, and that's fine. I should just move on to the next page. So moving on to the front side pocket now. I like this because you can just open it up and you have access to all the pens, and I don't have to take out a pencil case, although sometimes it might be more handy. I think it would be nice if there were like actual pen spots rather than just a pocket where you might need to clip it to the front. And even so, I find this is probably not the best, but it works for me. So there's with this, there's essentially 3 pockets. In the main pocket, I will keep these bulldog clips, which are super useful for holding the pages down when it's windy. And also sometimes you can like put a pen or something in there, and to clip other things to my notebook, like my watercolors or a cloth, for example. So I like to have all my pens visible so I can just grab the one I want straight away. I do have this Staedtler Mars Micro pacer or mechanical pencil, and it's a 0.7 millimeters, which is quite large, but I like drawing with a thicker nib, and I tend to use HB, or more rather 2B softness, so that it's got a little bit of darkness and is easy to erase. I don't often use my pacer, my pencil. I tend to start with my pen. The thing that I do use most of the time is my Indigraph pen. Now this is a fountain pen that is designed to use waterproof ink, which most fountain pens aren't designed for, and it's done that by using a little water capsule in the lid there, so that it keeps the nib moist and prevents it from drying out and blocking the pen. So I've got an extra fine nib here, but it does come with other sizes as well, and I am keen to try broader nib sizes. The ink I use is called Rotring, but they do sell their own, and they on their website tell you what other inks are suitable for use as well. These brush pens by Tombow, they're called the Fudnowski pens, and I've got 3, a fine tip black one, a broader black one, and then a fine tip but in grey. Next up are my Uniball pens. So these are the Uniball I, and I've got 3 bright colours that I tend to just use for highlighting things when I've got a lot of black and white on my pages. So I've got light green, orange and light blue. These have been a favourite pen of mine for many, many years since I was a kid, and I'm so glad to see that they come in lots of different colours now instead of just red, blue and black. On pages where I want to block in a lot of black, so I used a Faber-Castell Pitt Artist pen in the B nib size of bold. And for contrast, on those tan pages, I use these two white gel pens. They're both by Uniball Signo, and this one is the broad nib and this is the fine tip. I also have a Faber-Castell sharpener with a container for the leavings, and then a Staedtler Mars eraser. Again, I don't use these so much because I tend not to use pencil very much. I also have two tools that I will use on the occasion to help me with my nature journaling. The first one is a measuring tape, which this one's by Howard Storage World, and it comes in both centimeters and inches, and is retractable and light, and I have used it quite a few times. Next up is a retractable razor blade, a safety blade, so that if I want to do dissections or cut something, or even in a pinch sharpen a pencil, I guess, I could use that. So then in the larger pocket at the back, I keep all my watercolor supplies. So I've got two choices for watercolor. I have this Winsor & Newton Cotman set, which has 12 pans, and then I've got a Etchelab mini palette as well, which I filled with Schminke Horadam watercolors. I'll carry both, but sometimes I might take one out if it's too heavy. The Schminke Horadam have got these colors in them, and it's a nice little jar with some felt bits for in between the ceramic so that they don't break or rub, and then two ceramic parts, one with the paints and one for mixing colors on. In the middle of the paint one, I've added some white gouache as well. So the downside for that one is it's quite heavy because it's ceramic, but I like its portability, and in a pinch I could also use the tin itself to store water. With the Winsor & Newton Cotman, it's a 12 set, portable set. I like the fact that it's light and it's got the 3 mixing well areas, and I rearranged the colors to try and have yellows and reds, the warm colors on one side, the greens and blues, and then the darker and other miscellaneous like the white. And I tried to mix them like that as well. It does have a small brush, but I'm not sure where that's gone. I also have some Crayola watercolor pencils. These are just a bunch of 12. I've had them since childhood, so they're not the best. The points tend to break quite a lot, but they can be quite useful for if I don't want to get my wet material out, and I can just go afterwards with a wet brush over it if I want to, but otherwise I can just use them like colouring in pencils. And then my 3 water brushes. Now, usually I'll only use one of these at a time, but I've got 2 water brushes, one with a fine tip nib and the Pentel with a broader nib, and so they store water in the body. And then I've got a travel brush. This one is by Escoda. It's a size 8. In the body, you hold the tip and then it becomes a full-size brush. And I quite like the feel of it, but it's probably a little bit on the large side for what I tend to do when out in the field, which is usually smaller. And finally, this is a tip from John Yoloz, to have like an old sock or piece of material fabric to put on your wrist to wipe any excess pigment off, so that you keep your brush clean and your water clean as well. So that's all of the supplies that I take with me. Let me know in the comments below what supplies you take. Do you prefer something more minimal, or do you prefer to take everything just in case? Is there anything that you think I should add to my kit, or anything in my kit that you quite liked and you'll add to yours? I'd love to hear in the comments. Remember to give this video a like, a thumbs up, and subscribe if you're not already. See you in the next video.